On Monday, on the biggest crypto exchange in South Korea, XRP took 22% of everything that traded there, and Bitcoin took less than half of that. One country's retail crowd is setting the price of an asset that trades on every continent, and that's a stranger kind of strength than it sounds. This is your XRP news desk. That's a line from a man who founded one of the biggest trading desks in this crypto business, about a position that got read backwards all weekend. And I'll get there before we're halfway through. There's also a 7.2 to 1 imbalance sitting underneath this move, and it is the thing that decides how far XRP gets to run. Subscribe and like if you want the flow of numbers before the headlines catch up to them. Here's the lens I use whenever a rally starts inside one country. 3 parts in this order. Does the money keep arriving? Does the leverage stacked on top of that money survive? And does the network underneath show any sign of it being used? Low leverage ledger. Every move that begins somewhere small either clears all 3 or it hands the gains back. And the way I read it, that isn't a forecast. It is just the order the questions get answered in. For part 1, the flow. For the first half of this year, Korean retail money wasn't in crypto. It sat in the Seoul Stock Exchange, in Samsung Electronics, SK Hynix, riding the AI trade, while crypto ground through a downturn nobody wanted to be early to. Then, last week, it turned up and turned fast. Upbit's daily turnover jumped 250% to $1.8 billion on Friday. Bithumb rose over 130%, and the money coming back through the door went overwhelmingly into one asset. XRP took more than $418 million of retail inflows at the peak of it. Not Bitcoin, it was XRP. By Monday, the XRP one pair did $319 million on Upbit, which is 22% of everything happening on that exchange. While Bitcoin did 125 million, Tether did 179 million, and Ethereum just under 100 million. One asset out-traded every heavyweight crypto on the board on the exchange where Korea does the buying, and it did it on a Monday. Now here's the number that changes what all of this means. The kimchi premium, the gap between what a coin costs in Seoul and what it costs everywhere else, is sitting at about negative 0.5%. Sit on that for a second. The way that I read it, when Korean buying is just enthusiasm, local prices run hot. Koreans pay up, a premium opens, and that premium is to tell that Korea is chasing a price the rest of the world already made. There is no premium here. Seoul is trading in line with the world, which means the Korean bid isn't following the global price of XRP. It's making it. And let me say that the other way around, because it's the whole video. When the premium is positive, Korea is a passenger. At negative 0.5, Korea is the engine. And the report those volume numbers come from lands in the same place. That Korean turnover appears to be the main global engine pushing XRP higher. So why does that make me careful rather than euphoric? Because an engine inside one country is a small number of hands. Korean exchange revenues nearly halved after capital walked out of that market at the start of this year as they followed the AI trade. That was the same crowd, same exchanges, the same money left. Money that arrives in 3 days can leave also in 3 days. That isn't a bearish call and it isn't fear. It's the shape of the market because a broad global bid is slow to build and slow to break. And a single country's bid is fast in both directions. Do you think that bid is still there in September, or does the AI trade pull it straight back to Samsung? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe while you're there. Part 2, the leverage. This is where the misreading lives. On Bitfinex, XRP margin longs have climbed to 6.41 billion coins. Across the venues, daily futures volume is running at about 4.5 times actual spot turnover, and that's a sentence worth slowing down for. The paper is trading 4.5 times the coin. On Binance, there are now roughly 2.5 leverage buyers for every leverage seller. When a crowd leans that hard one way, the pain stops being symmetrical. If the price runs back toward the level where those buyers break, about 24.5 million of them get force closed against 2.9 million on the other side. That is 7.2 to 1. In the last 24 hours, with the price up, $12.5 million of longs were liquidated against $9 million of shorts. So the leverage buyers are already the ones bleeding on a green day. So is the smart money betting against you? Because that's how it got written up. On-chain trackers spotted Wintermute, one of the largest market makers in this business, carrying an XRP short worth more than $10 million inside a $1.38 billion block of shorts across Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. The Wintermute founder said the positions are neutral inventory management and premium collateral. It's not a bearish view. Here's the mechanism, because it matters more than the quote does. When retail piles into perpetual futures on one side, the funding rate those buyers pays climbs. A market maker sells the perpetual and buys the real coin on the spot market at the same moment, flat on direction, collecting that funding for as long as the crowd stays long. The short only exists because the crowd is crowded. It isn't a bet against XRP. It's a fee charged to leverage longs, and they're the ones paying it. The whole position is 0.28% of $3.6 billion of open interest sitting on XRP, which is the other thing worth knowing before anybody calls it a whale attack. Part 3 is the ledger. This is the part that doesn't care about what Seoul does this week. Activity on the XRP ledger is climbing hard. Transaction per closed ledger are up 150% to about 176 per ledger. And active users are up over 200%, roughly 483,000. And here I owe you something, because I nearly handed you that as a clean number. A day later, the same kind of read pointed the other way. Payments down 31%, active accounts down 26%, while total transactions kept climbing anyway. 2 windows, 2 directions, 1 ledger. So I'll give you only what both of them agree on. More transactions are being packed into every ledger that closes, and a shrinking share of those are simple payments. Something other than people sending each other money is making that traffic. The honest version is that automated flows, or apps built on the ledger, are doing more of the work than people with wallets are. There's a second thing down there that just doesn't move with Seoul either. Just under 963 million ROUSD has been issued on the XRP ledger. And the way that I read it, a stablecoin balance isn't a trade. It's somebody parking money where they expect to spend it. Underneath it, the network is mid-upgrade. More than 60% of XRP ledger nodes have moved to version 3.3.0. A set of amendments is in validator voting right now. They are batch transactions, permission delegation, sponsored fees, reserves, and confidential transfers. One of them, a bundle of fixes covering vaults, lending, the automated market maker, and the permission order book, sits at 68% consensus and needs 80% to go live. Operators who don't upgrade get amendment block, which is the ledger's way of saying that a server which doesn't understand the new rules doesn't get the vote on them. None of this is advice about anyone's position, by the way. I read flows and filings out loud. That's the job. And what you do with your own stack is never my business. So let's put all 3 parts together. XRP right now sitting at $1.49. And it got there from roughly $1 in early August. That level isn't random. It's been rejected at least on 4 separate times this year. February, March, April, and May. And now the analysts who have been tracking it says holding it above the prerequisite is a run for a potential at $1.80. Daily RSI sitting at about 86, about as stretched as this asset gets. Flows say yes, but from one place. Leverage says crowded, and the crowd is the one paying the toll. Ledger says real usage is growing, and it's still not the reason the price has moved this week. That's a rally standing on one leg with 2 more it hasn't even put its weight on. And then there's the part of this story with nothing to do with Seoul. On August 20th, the CFTC's new Innovation Advisory Committee met for the first time. Michael Selig chaired it and Brad Garlinghouse was in the room. Afterwards, Garlinghouse said everyone in that room agreed on one thing. Rules written for a different era aren't good enough. Not for consumers, not for business, not for innovation. That's a different clock entirely. Korean retail put more than $418 million into XRP at the peak of Friday's rush, and it could be gone by the time the leaves turn. A federal judge's sentence says XRP in itself is not a security and it's not going anywhere. Ripple's 75 licenses around the world aren't going anywhere as well. The rulebook being drafted in Washington doesn't go anywhere. We need the Clarity Act to pass. The fragile thing is doing the loud part right now. The durable thing is doing the quiet part. And the durable thing is still standing there when the loud part stops. One country founded this ledger in a single weekend. There are a lot more countries to go. If the reframe of the whale hit for you, hit the like, subscribe if it genuinely helps. Stack facts, not fear, and I'll see you in the next video.